What's good, family? Y'all know what it is. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Man, we're back with another installment of the HBCU Fanatics. Of course, I am your brother, Jared O11 Green. And of course, I have my co host and my man, my brother, Coach 67 Sports TV, Mr. Southern. What's going on?
Man, salute to you, bro. Hopefully all is well with you. I am blessed and highly favored this evening. And of course, the fanatics are in the building, you dig?
Always, yes, sir, man. Those who catch the replay or you come in late, or mainly if you catch the replay, please hit the button and share. If you think you know someone who like HBCU ball, please share, and we appreciate you. Trying to at least hit 500 before the year is out. That'll be good, but every little bit helps. So I appreciate all y'all who support. Um, Coach, man, how did you enjoy last week overall in the SWAC? Watching the SWAC, I know we gonna get to uh your Southern the Southern Jackson State game, the Boombox Classic. But overall, what was your thoughts?
Well, I didn't get to watch games like I wanted to, but being in A.W. Mumford Stadium when they called out some of the scores, it was kind of interesting, especially, you know, Valley Valley was beating Texas Southern like a good portion of that game, you know. So that was interesting, even though I didn't get to watch it like I wanted to, because a good portion of my evening, I'll probably say from like 2 to probably no, I'm gonna say for a good 12-hour period from 2 to 2. My sole focus was the Boombox Classic, but at the end of the day, some of the scores were pretty interesting, and I think my biggest takeaway is that the top of the SWAC East is way stronger than the top of the SWAC West.
Yes,
It's
sir.
kind of like the varsity is the SWAC East and the JV is the SWAC West, and whoever come out the East is going to be a heavy favorite uh, against whoever come out the West. And in addition to that, you know, some people like, man, hey, you just saying that because Southern done this year. But I'm gonna just be truthful. I don't think I ever recall seeing the SWAC as a conference. I mean, don't get me wrong. They had years where, you might have like a handful of teams at the top is strong, and the rest of the conference weak. But I don't think I can ever remember like the conference collectively as a whole just being just trash. You know what I'm saying? That's my overall impression of it. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I still favor whoever come out the SWAC over whoever gonna come out the MEAC. But at the end of the day, I mean, at this point, it looked like a two-team conference. The top two teams in the East, and that's it. The rest of the conference is just there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know the dynamics changed with, the transfer portal and NIL and a lot of these, PWI, Power Fives. Like, they getting basically guys that would ordinarily be starters in the SWAC are probably like, scout team type guys at PWI Power Fives, and it may be, that's the case to kind of add some depth. And not only that, but we're just gonna kind of use the '90s, like just for example, when P. Richardson was the dean of the SWAC and running the SWAC, like the rock. I mean, the Southern's roster as a whole, had depth, and not only that, you would that really didn't make Southern a championship team, but I think it elevated Southern and it put them over the top by getting a lot of transfers from LSU in that day and age. But now those guys that ordinarily would transfer from LSU to Southern. I mean, don't get me wrong, you got Trey Holly and DeMarion Johnson, which is the exception in this instance. Uh, for the exception of those two guys, you're not getting that type of talent, that you got back in the day. And we're not just talking about Southern, but we talking about just the SWAC collectively as a whole. Even though I'm using Southern as a point of reference, So at the end of the day, I really think, I don't know what needs to change. Some kind of way, just like you had teams like, like Florida State that really, even though they was upset last Friday, I think they adjusted to the way, the new age of college football is now. Of course, you got other guys like Dabo Sweeney who really don't want to seem to adjust. He just kind of was used to the way things were, you know, teams like Clemson having the competitive advantage and just kind of being the way they were. I mean, you got to get a staff and an athletic director that could really adjust to, the modern wave of the game when you're talking about, not just Southern, but HBCUs in general, because I don't think the HBCU product, I can't say across the board, but definitely, in the SWAC, it's not what it once was. Because I see this all the time, if you take guys from the past like Bryant Lee, like Quincy Reshard, like Devontae Kincaid and Tavares Jackson and Steve Ed McNair and Doug Williams. And I mean, those guys, if you took one of those guys from the past, even somebody like Austin Howard, the only
Hmm.
reason why he really couldn't get over the top was because Devontae Kincaid and Martez Carter was at Grambling. But if you took Austin Howard in his prime, you transported him into the SWAC right now. No disrespect to Andrew Body and Cornelius Brown Ford. He would be far and away the top player in the SWAC, and it's not even close. Same thing with Bryant Lee. Even some of the mid guys uh, like maybe trying to think of somebody who I thought was mid at the time. I mean, I don't know. Some of the guys that were good but not great, I think those guys would be
I thought
otherworldly.
Felix Harper from Alcorn was a good
Now I'm
quarterback.
trying to I'm trying to think of somebody else. I mean, I'm even if you say somebody like Don DC Carey, be far and away the best player in the SWAC right now. Bruce Eugene. Especially from a quarterback perspective. I really feel like the defensive backs and the quarterbacks are like the two biggest lacking positions. You know what I'm saying? Right now, even
Yeah,
Kendrick
the
North. I
skill
thought,
positions is definitely not like, especially running back. And let me tell you how I know you're not lying. And somebody brought this up last show about how a lot of PWI schools um, are using a lot of HBCUs as a breeding ground to recruit um, talent, like Jamari Taylor from North Carolina Central. Guess where
yeah,
he's at? He's at
where,
Virginia.
yeah,
He was
it,
he was running all over Florida State defense, and he was doing the same thing in the MEAC.
no, but this is the crazy thing about it though. Jelani Davis, who would have been the star defensive end opposite of Kelby Givens, when Florida State played against Kent State, shout out to our brother Jay Good, who really supposed to be on the show, but shout out to him. He pointed that out. He was like, Jelani Davis had like 5 tackles against Florida State.
Yeah,
In all actuality, just imagine how much better Southern's like two bookends would be if you had Jelani Davis on one end and Kelby Givens on the other end. You understand what I'm saying? So, not only that, like I said, somebody like Kendrick Nord, somebody like TR, Thomas Ricks, like those guys would be, I think, the best quarterback in the SWAC if they played in 2025. So at the end of the day, like, instead of Southern being able to get players to transfer from LSU like Michael Hayes, like Chris Cooper, like Nemesis Bates, even though we don't want to bring up, Nemesis Bates too much because, he looking at life in prison, not looking at, he's serving life in prison as we speak. But there's a lot of guys that, came from LSU to Southern and became superstars, even though you got one right now in Trey Holly. At the end of the day, what guys do now is they transfer from one PWI Power Five to another PWI Power Five.
hmm
And I'm not gonna lie, like Trey Holly is just using this as a launching pad to go to another Power Five and get him a bag, an NIL bag. I mean, anytime you got guys like the starting quarterback from Tulane going to Kentucky and getting like $6.2 million in NIL money, you know, it's gonna be interesting to see what type of money is waiting for someone like Trey Holly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I want to talk about something that's all over social media before we get into the scores, man. I don't think it will be a since us being an HBCU show, man, football mainly. I think it will be um I'll be tripping if I miss this topic. Before I go into it, let me shout out to everybody in the chat. Relaxing, calm rain. Salute Jared, Coach 67, Jaguar Nation, HBCU family, man. Salute, brother. Motivation to be a millionaire. Salute Jared, Coach Chat, Jaguar Nation, HBCU family. Salute, brother. He said fire Banks, Grays, and the entire staff. Yeah, they y'all fed up over there in Jaguar Nation, but we gonna discuss it. My brother D Weezy, he said, "What up, fellas? Man, what up, brother? Thank you for coming by." Blackwater Bayou said, "Salute, chat. What up, brother?"
Man, salute.
But and you probably already know this, Coach. You probably seen it a lot on Instagram, Facebook. So Florida A&M marching band, Florida A&M marching 100 band announcer Joe Bullard has faced public backlash after calling Alabama State Honeybees dance squad the new face of Ozempic on the stadium's PA
Yeah,
system.
I saw that on or in one of the because I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. Roughing the Swag is one of them with Avis Heat, and that's why you see a lot of Jackson State fans trolling in my chat. But it's all love. That's why you see a lot of Jackson State fans like Christopher Dukes. Christopher Dukes is a little bit more of a troller, whereas Israel Carey, salute to him. He's more of a straight shooter. But that's why you see so many just so many like fans from around the swag lately, not just in our chat, not just in my chat, but but you see him in Swag Talk, in the Jaguar Journal. You see him Carlos Brown, Wild Wayne, PV versus everybody. She loves the HBCU Overdrive. So like a lot of these same individuals you see in our chat, like you see them all around, like the HBCU content space,
Yes, sir.
HBCU
What up,
game day,
Christopher
wherever.
Dukes? Here, one of them.
Yeah, see,
Christopher
that's what I'm
Dukes.
saying. So a lot of these people you see in our chat, like you see them all around the HBCU space, and it's all love. It's good fun, especially when you get the Jackson State fans trolling all over the place. Trolling like I said in my comment section and in my live streams. Of course, you're gonna have somebody like Adrian Cook going word for word with them. But I mean, but more than anything, it's all love. But for a lot of people, is highly offended by that. I'm not gonna lie. Back in the gap, I'm gonna just keep
Hey,
it a buck.
this is
Back,
not
back
about
in the
JSU, Coach.
yeah, hey, back in the gap, it would have just been good, clean fun. But saying they're the new face of Ozempic, 2025, that's kind of people find that kind of offensive. People don't have the kind of sense of humor they had back in the gap.
Those who and a lot we HBCU family people get the joke, but those who don't are still lost of why that was. So the honey Alabama State Honey Beans Dance Squad is
They're known for being
um
some thickums over the years.
yeah
You know what I'm
thicker,
saying?
and so he made that comment, because they BBWs. Um, it was a lot of people felt that was distasteful. A
Man,
lot
that
of
was good,
people,
clean fun, bro. That was good, clean fun.
and that's what I'm to get to. A lot of people was getting at that. It was like somebody I saw somebody say, "Now it was somebody from the '85 South, like Carlos Miller or Chico Bean or somebody like that." Made that comment, everybody be laughing because it's a joke. But a lot of people felt like it wasn't a joke, that type of atmosphere. It wasn't, basically it was a distasteful comment.
I disagree. I felt like it was good, clean fun. Me myself, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, okay.
In
I'm
fact, no.
kind.
What are your thoughts on
My thoughts is, them girls, lot of them females are, overweight and they can dance, are very athletic.
it? And they
Um,
sensitive.
yeah, and a lot of them may didn't like that comment. We dealing with ladies here, so dealing with self esteem and uh how they feel. So yeah, and not just ladies, just human beings. I don't. I don't think he should be fired because it's FAMU. They're rivals, so that must slip out. He
Yes,
thought it was funny, but he just missed the mark in my opinion. So I hope the brother keep his job. It was just a bad
bro,
time,
I'm not gonna
in
lie.
my opinion.
It's somebody that does commentary on Friday nights. It's somebody that have been a football games all my life and SWAC games all my life. Bro, that's not even the most offensive thing I done heard over the years. You know what I'm saying? And I done heard some stuff. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, one of my faculty members that was at this one school I was at. He played at La Tech, and he ended up going from our school district to another school district closer to New Orleans. One of those River Parish schools. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, uh, you know, at one point when Southern was on top, they used to recruit the River Parish area real heavy. And one of the neighboring schools that, in fact, Brian Lee went to one of the schools, but it was a rival school from the school Brian Lee went to, right? And basically, man, this guy P announced on Friday night, man, this dude was saying wild stuff. And I talked to my coworker after the game, because I went to check him out. He was undefeated. I went to the game that night. They lost their first game. I think they were like 7-0, 8-0 at the point, and they lost the rest of the games. The rest of the way they lost the last few games in the regular season, and they lost in the first round of first or second round, something like that. But he was like, man, coach, he said that dude was saying wild stuff because he was drunk. He was like, man, that dude be drunk every Friday night when he be announcing them games. And I'm not, man, for real, coach. I didn't know he was drunk, but he was saying some wild stuff. In fact, I'll probably say the most ridiculous thing I heard. I kid you not. I was like a freshman at Southern, and Southern played against Alcorn State in Lorman. That was the first time senior took us, I mean, of course, we always go to all the Southern home games, but we would go to like 2 away games every year. So we ended up going to Lorman and, Southern playing against Alcorn State. And I kid you not, bro, the PA announcer, no, the guy that was doing the invocation, he praying. This dude
Hmm.
prayed for Alcorn State to beat Southern.
No, see, that's funny. That's not
I kid you.
but he ain't talking about
No,
nobody weight. He ain't talking
no,
about how
but
they
bruh,
look or
bruh,
nothing.
bruh, bruh,
That's
bruh,
funny.
bruh, bruh. I know. I mean, no, he was not being funny. He was dead serious. And I'm thinking to myself, bruh, this
Even
dude.
if it was dead, it was
All
harmless
right,
though.
but just think about it. I think this dude was like a pastor of a church or something. For you to pray for Alcorn State to beat Southern, and guess what? Clearly, the Lord didn't answer his prayer. Because guess what? No, I
Y'all
kid you
won.
not. I kid you not. Alcorn was up 28-26. Coach Richardson game management skills at the end of this particular. Not game. I'm sorry. Clock management. His clock management skills at the end of this game was terrible, right? So they only had like maybe 20 seconds left. It was like I think third. No, it was second and whatever, right? So they don't have no more timeouts. Cole Richardson ran the offense off the field, and he ran the kick team on the field. I'm thinking to myself, he's not gonna call a timeout. He's like, oh, he can't call a timeout. He ain't got no more timeout. I'm like, what you mean, bro? He ran them on the field, and I'm like, man, this dude he ain't made a field goal from this distance the whole year. He ran him on the field. This dude kicked with the clock running now at the basically at the buzzer. This dude kicked again when the field goal, and Southern beat Alcorn State 29-28. I'm thinking to myself, that's good. Anytime you got this preacher praying that Alcorn State beat Southern, I'm like, to me, that was the most egregious thing I done heard. But man, I done heard teams like one band take a shot at another band and so on and so forth. Man, like I say, bro, we just live in a PC era. Even as like an administrator now, been in education a lot of years. We all was picked on as kids or whatever, but it's to a point now where bullying is like the worst thing ever. Whereas back in our day, it made us tougher. We live in a world that's that's weaker yet wiser and way more politically correct. Man, we didn't live in this participation trophy society that we live in. You know what I'm saying? When it come to even when it come to like NFL, NBA, like the game was way more physical and tougher back then. Now, like you breathe on somebody hard, they flopping in the NBA. You know, so at the end of the day, I think it's just the world we live in. And don't get me wrong, you know, I'm not for making, I'm not for disrespecting nobody, but now I'm gonna be honest with you. Now, if it would have been a PWI school making that comment, oh yeah, I'd have been highly heated. You know what I'm saying? But I think they did it all in good fun. So I don't think the guy should lose his job.
No, I don't. I
If
don't
if
think so.
if he had to make a public apology, then cool. But man, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bit much. Me myself.
All I got to say is all funny games. If somebody talk about your people, so if it was your niece or goddaughter or whatever, dancing, she got a little weight on her, you wouldn't be, you know, you'll have that same mindset, coach.
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, I guess coming from my era, right? I mean, all right, I'm gonna take it away from HBC for a minute, right? In
Right, right, right.
many instances, Kevin Sam used to get on his platform and he used to tell women, like, hey, you want a high value man, like you don't have a problem telling a man, like, hey, you want a man at least 6 feet tall, guy that's making six figures. You want a high value man, you don't want short guys, you don't want this, you don't want that. But when I'm telling you, like high value men don't want fat women, like basically you used to call them fat, like, and I mean, they were so comfortable in saying, a guy scrub, a guy this, a guy that. But when somebody just
That's true, D Weezy.
forward
Go ahead.
truth, like truthful and blunt and honest, they couldn't handle that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be honest with you, as a man, I can't stand. I done been in a relationship, been in a relationship with a woman, and basically she wants you to tell her what she wants to hear. As a man, I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. I want you to tell me what I need to hear. So if you told me, man, coach, hey, your fat ass need to get in the gym, you need to lose some weight, I'm gonna receive that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna keep it a buck. You talking to a different type of guy. We had to have thick skin in our days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
for real.
so that's what I'm saying. So maybe I'm the wrong person to have this conversation with. Now, if you, that's
I
what I'm,
hear no, but the conversation is needed.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you have somebody that didn't grow up in the era I grew up in, don't have the same kind of thick skin I have. I mean, I don't want you to lie to me. I want you to be. I'd rather you be brutally honest than sugarcoat it and lie to me and tell me something. I want you to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think it was anything malicious, anything harsh. I don't think he was just trying to make him feel bad, and I don't think it was in bad taste. I think it was just, and I'm gonna be honest with you, because you said, if that was my niece, hell, I don't call my niece fat too. Of course, you like, well, hey, you a big back, like how you gonna talk with me? All right, cool. But guess what? I'm a man, like you a young lady. You know what I'm saying? I'm I'm trying to prevent you from being what I am. You know what I'm saying? But at the same token, I'm twice your age. So you comparing apples to oranges at this point. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you know, if you sensitive, all right, I could respect that. But at the same token, some of these same people will be the type of people that can dish it but can't take it. I don't think the guy should lose his job. Worst case scenario, hey, have him make a public apology and just keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying?
right. And salute to Big Joe, man. He's in Salute Family. And Big Joe said the guy is a PA announcer. The guy was wrong for what he said. He's an announcer, not a life coach.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think,
I'm not gonna lie. That's the
but
perspective I want to hear. I want to see what somebody like Big Joe had to say. Because he's level-headed. He, he, he has a lot. He's an excellent point of view and perspective on a lot of
yes, he
topics.
does.
So you know, I,
Because
I'm a
I hear
slight.
what you're saying, but my thing is, here's my thing. If we were all, even with, we know females that can take a joke. Like, I'm gonna give you an example, like Tyler Perry that worked with Tamala Mann and the woman that played Bam. them women can take jokes because
Uh-huh.
Tyler Perry called them big, heavy set, fat, but it's a joke and they all know each other.
Yeah.
But I grew up if I don't know you, I ain't gonna joke on you like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
man, I can see that perspective. I agree with you
So
on
if
that.
you a PA announcer, you don't let that fly out your mouth. 'Cause you don't know them young sisters like that. And you don't know what if they got thick skin or not. So I understand what you saying, but I like nah. And no, I don't think he should be fired. He just was a distasteful joke.
Yeah,
In my
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest with you. If I felt like he had malicious intent, then yeah, I'll say, can him. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. But I think he did it all in good fun. But at the end of the day, I could see y'all perspective. You know what I'm saying? But if it had been something malicious where and I agree with you from the perspective of like, yeah, hey, we know each other and we Jones and or whatever, or we playing the dozens, whatever you want to call it, then yeah, it's cool. But if you don't know me, like, don't say that type of thing. And I can see both sides of it. And I think that's the thing, that's the issue I have, you know, especially when you get in a certain like real like hypersensitive conversations and people basically, they can't see both sides of an argument and they don't have empathy for other people. You know, I think that's the problem some people have in 2025, but at the same token, like we had to have thicker skin back in the gap. And, if those young ladies were offended by it, then, then hopefully, it didn't offend them too much. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. Now, if you got somebody like Don Imus and he'd have said something like that, I probably won't slap the taste out of his mouth. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I feel like,
and I agree with you. I agree. It's just thing we can't. We need to know the boundaries with each other. We just can't go, but we can't wait till the white guy says it and jokes on who doesn't have, and not all, no, not all white people, of course, but the ones who don't really care for us and like to spot up, let crazy stuff fly out their mouth. We can't wait until them type of people say crazy stuff about us and get mad. We gotta check. We gotta watch the room with each other. Make sure it's okay for us to say this. Oh, okay. I can say this to Big Joe because I know him. But even with me knowing him, I gotta be respectful and you know, same thing with you. You know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not
because
gonna even lie. Now if I feel like as a black person, and we on a public platform for them people, and I feel like you buck dancing like Malika Andrews, and you keep bringing up like offensive stuff when it comes to black people, and you don't have the same energy for them other folks, then yeah, I got a problem with somebody like that. I can tell you that now, and she's synonymous for doing that. Somebody black does something, whether we talking about Ime Udoka or Brandon Miller or whoever, like she ready to bring up this type of nonsense. But when it's somebody white, like she has nothing to say, like literally in the same scenario, the same instance. So yeah, I'm offended by that type of thing, yeah, without question. But if I felt like he had malicious intent, then I feel like it would be a problem. But I felt like it was in good fun, But like you said, if I don't know you like that, don't joke with me like that. And like I said, I could see both sides to that particular argument.
yeah, because how I grew up. And it just me. And let me read Joe Townsend said. He said, "Remember during the NFL draft several years ago, they kept bringing up all bad history in the kid's family. People were upset and never did it again." Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's kind of similar to like the Malika Andrews thing I was saying. Even though it's not the exact same thing, it's like a similar from a correlation standpoint of yeah, if somebody has something negative in their background, because I mean that's the thing about it. When it comes to those type of things, if it's somebody black, they ready to bring up their negative history. If it's somebody white, it's kind of swept under the rug. And I kid you not, like we had this group of of us former faculty members. We all at different schools now, right? And they had this group chat we was in, and to kind of make a long story short, uh, something happened at a school in Baton Rouge. but they wouldn't name the school. And basically, one of our former coworkers was like, "Yeah, we know this is a white school," and they was like, because they didn't name the school. If it would have been a black school, they would have named it. And then I kid you not, like the next week, something happened at like a Struma High School, like the school where I was it's a high school and middle school all in one. I was like the head football coach there for a season. Then something happened at Scotlandville High, like the school right around the corner from Southern. So basically, we were saying even the newspaper, they have like a ridiculous double standard. Like, even when you watching the news, like back in the Gap, especially the two Baton Rouge news channel, they were synonymous for this. If it was somebody black that committed a crime, they would literally plaster the person's picture on the screen. If it's somebody white, they would just talk about it and then just keep it pushing. So, you're right. It's definitely a double standard, when it comes to that type of thing,
Yeah, man. And D, we say if you're on the job, you got to be professional. Yeah. Yep, that's my thing, And it was like again, it wasn't a comedy environment, like the 85 South show or a comedy club or whatever. I can understand, or even with in the HBCU landscape, sometimes they have comedians come before the game
Well,
or
I
right
don't know
before the
before the
game,
game, but I know for like homecoming week and stuff, like
Right,
they had
right,
a lot of comedians come through and perform. When I was at Southern, you had TP Hearns, you had Arnaz J, we had different comedians come through. Joe Torre, back in the Gap, Of course, you could tell I'm older because, these are not like not current comedians that people know about, you know what I'm saying? Or that's really active out there. I'm not saying they like 80 years old or nothing, but I'm saying they're not your current hot comedians, like the YouTube, Instagram comedians that everybody know.
right. No, I feel you, man. But yeah, man, that's that. I found that to be like interesting, but I want to bring that to the family's attention. Let's go into these scores, coach. You know what? Let's knock out the CIAA and the
Yeah, yeah,
SIAC
yeah.
first. Um, so last week in the CIAA, we had Virginia Union versus Shaw. Virginia Union beat Shaw 59-7. Winston-Salem State beat Bowie State 28-21. Damn good game. Coach, I told you, I tried to tell you, Virginia State gets upset by Fayetteville State 34-14. I'm telling you.
That's what's
I'm,
up.
I tried to tell you that when it comes to the Fayetteville State and their record could be like barely above 500, they still dangerous. Don't sleep on them.
Yeah.
Um, Bluefield State get blown out against Johnson C. Smith, 69-13. Lincoln out of Pennsylvania gets blown out against Livingstone, 31-7. And let's see the standings so far. So they still got Livingstone 3 because they're 3-1. So but they're 2-1 in the conference. So that's why
Okay.
they're still on the top. So they're 3-1. Virginia Union is 3-1. Second in the conference. Fayetteville State is 2-3, but they're 2-0 in the conference. Johnson C. Smith is 4-1. Winston-Salem State is 3-2. Shaw is 1-3. Virginia State is 2-2. Bluefield State is 1-3. And Bowie is 1-3, and Elizabeth City State is 0-4, and Lincoln is 0-5. I don't think Lincoln gonna win a game this year, Coach. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna bring it up every time I think of Lincoln and Allen. I think of the P. Richardson Classic. Those were teams that Southern for a couple of years. They would whoop up on to start the season, at least the home opener anyway.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, you always bring up that example when you hear
Hmm.
Lincoln. Cause they've been a punching bag for years, man.
Yeah.
I can remember when they were fighting for a conference championship. Unless I'm tripping, yeah, they've been bad for a minute.
Yeah.
Um, let's move on to the SIAC. So
Okay.
Allen, one of my picks. I'm eating crow, and you pick Albany State. Allen gets blown out, 14-57.
Ooh.
Yeah, Central State beats Lane, and I was wrong. You picked Central State. I picked Lane. They gets blown out. Lane gets blown out, 42-13.
Hmm.
Benedict blows out Clark Atlanta, 59-24.
I guess Zod McDonald didn't have a good game.
I guess not. Uh, Miles loses to Morgan State 24-17. Good game. Uh, Fort Valley State barely won against Tuskegee 27-20. Kentucky State pulled away from Savannah State 37-20. And Morehouse almost upset Edward Waters, but Edward Waters came out on top 27-24. Now
Okay.
let's go to the standings. So Benedict is number one in the SIAC. They're 4-0. Edward Waters is right behind them, 4-1. Albany State is 3-1. Kentucky State is 3-2. Allen is 2-3. Fort Valley State is 1-3. Savannah State is 2-2. Clark Atlanta is 2-3. Tuskegee is 2-3. Central State is 1-4. They picked up their first win in the conference. Morehouse is 0-4. Lane is 0-4, and Miles is 0-5.
And like just to think, Southern have played a lot of these teams like Savannah State, like Allen. You talked about Lincoln earlier. Miles. They done played a lot of these schools in the P. Richardson Classic. Damn, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Hmm.
It's definitely crazy, man. But you ready for to go attack this the SWAC and the MEAC? Let's go with the
No,
MEAC first.
yeah, let's
Go
go
ahead.
with the MEAC first.
All right. So MEAC. So say, oh man, this game pissed me off so bad. I watched this game, Coach.
Hmm.
Delaware State was beating Sacred Heart most of the game. Fourth quarter, they let Sacred Heart rally back, and Delaware State ended up beating Delaware State 35-31. Sacred Heart
So you
ended
mean
up beating
Sacred Heart
Delaware
and beat
State
Delaware State? Yeah.
35-31. Excuse me.
Oh,
Yeah, Sacred Heart ended up beating. They coming back and beating them after Delaware State was beating them the whole time. Defense, I don't know what the hell they kept on doing, throwing to the slot, and then it's like to the running backs, and then quarterback options, and they were giving up long plays. Um,
yes, indeed.
but Deshaun Jackson's Delaware State Hornets falls 35-31. Same thing with Norfolk State. Coach, I don't think Wagner gonna win a game in their conference. They,
Wow.
they I could be wrong, but Wagner did not impress me at all. Wagner was not a good football team. Norfolk State had multiple chance to put up multiple scores, but holding, uh, mistakes, dropping balls, letting Wagner stick around, and unfortunately, Wagner eventually had a pulse in that offense, and they just kept giving it to their running backs, and um, their running backs, ran it in for scores, and they end up beating Norfolk State 18-13.
Wow. Crazy.
He said, "Is Edward Waters related to Sergeant Waters?" No. Big Reg, what's up, man? Big
Man,
Reg,
salute to Big Reg. Big boy
yeah,
talk, you dig?
yeah, man. Love y'all show, man. Even though I'm low key one of the co-hosts, but there's all them, man. Big Rope, Big Reg, J6, and 86 Ghost, Eddie, aka Brandon, man. They do their thing over there. Um, but Richmond almost got beat by Howard, but Howard loses to them by 1 point. Richmond beat them 13-12. Again, I told you the Morgan State and Miles score. Morgan State barely beat Miles 24-17. Damn. South Carolina State almost beat Charleston Southern, but Charleston Southern comes out with the win 31-24. And North Carolina Central offense was too much for East Texas A&M, but they end up winning 50-42. North Carolina Central. So
All right, all
they're
right.
still looking strong in the MEAC. So let's go to the standings in the MEAC. The Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. Okay. So so North Carolina Central is on top, of course, 4-2. Delaware State is behind them 3-2. They're 3-2, excuse me. Howard is 3-2. South Carolina State is 2-3. Morgan State is 2-3, and Norfolk State, Michael Vick's Norfolk State Spartans are 1-4.
Yeah, because we picked North Carolina Central and South Carolina State, respectively. So it's gonna be interesting to see who ends up winning the MEAC.
Yeah, Delaware has the best chance to possibly upset
Upset the apple cart, yeah.
the apple cart, but they got to do something. Their secondary got to play, and Norfolk State can score, but their defense, their secondary is god awful. My lord, man, their secondary is god awful. Just keeping it 100 with
It's
you.
not just them, it's a lot of HBCUs with bad secondaries in
No, no,
2025.
no.
No, I mean, you got to realize, bro, there's levels to bad. I'm not saying
You want me to break it
everybody just
down? You could take bro, you could take your middle school team right now, just a middle school team that you coached in the past. Get your fastest player and just tell them just to go deep, and you tell your quarterback just throw it deep, and your wide receiver will have it. That young man will have a chance. That's how bad their secondary play
man,
is,
I'm
bro.
not gonna lie. I know some SWAC teams are still a struggle to throw the ball against that.
Damn. But I'm trying to tell you,
Yeah,
just me
I see
sitting here
what you're
watching
saying
it
though.
is
I see
bad.
what you're saying though. So I mean, but it's gonna be interesting to see during the course of the season how many
No, it's
MEAC
not.
teams can take advantage of
I
it.
can't say this for Colorado, D Weezy. Um, but this is not Mike Vick. Mike Vick is actually doing a good job, in my opinion. It's obviously the talent. He needs to. He they know. Put it this way, D Weezy. They need to recruit some people that can stay with somebody in the secondary.
Well, I mean, when Dion was at Jackson State that first season, don't get it twisted, they were trash. The only thing that really kind of hid uh a lot of issues they had was because after COVID, the FBS played, but the SWAC didn't. So they played that spring, a season that spring, and then they turned around and they played that fall. So he had 2 seasons within the same calendar year. That's the only thing that made it seem like it was a bigger gap. But from that spring season to that fall season, it was a huge jump in Jackson State. So I think Michael Vick can make that same type of quantum leap if you ask me.
Yeah, man, all that talent he got for the Newport News area and all them, those famous areas around that Virginia area that's known just to spit out talent. Hell yeah! Now he may not get um the Power 5 type talents, but there's a lot of talent, young men in in them areas that's under the radar that they can pick up and make their ball club very competitive in the MEAC. So you're definitely right.
Yeah, and when you finish going over the standings or whatever, I want to ask you a question about that before we, get into the SWAC aspect of it.
Okay, okay. But yeah, I finished giving up the standings for the MEAC. We was gonna go into the SWAC. But so what were you gonna ask me?
Well, there's one of these Facebook group chats I'm in. I'm in like 100 of them at this point. Basically it was talking about, a lot of HBCUs don't have the kind of finances they would need to, I guess, to kind of get the caliber and kind of coach they would want. So if you were like an AD at an HBCU and you really looking to jumpstart your program, would you hire a head coach from a D2 like a Lincoln, well, not so much Lincoln and Allen, but the powerhouse in the CIAA and the SIAC? Would you hire a coach from a school like that, or would you look to make a celebrity hire? I mean, we've talked about this a lot in the past in terms of, you know, the Deion Sanders and Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson. Of course, you could also talk about Terrell Buckley, that type of thing. But to me, I feel like if you're gonna hire a former NFL player, you might as well get you a superstar as opposed to, you know, just a good player, even a Pro Bowl. I'm talking about a Hall of Fame caliber guy. So would you look to hire a D2 guy that could end up being like the next Pete Richardson, or would you look to hire like Deion Sanders type guy and a guy that went to your program to kind of be like the heir apparent? Which direction would you prefer to go
You
in?
know my answer is gonna be coaching. Good question. It's definitely going if I'm gonna kickstart somebody, Ed Reed or Deion Sanders, someone who is willing to come like Deion was, is excited to come. And I'll just let him have it, have at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
but not now. One thing you got to take into consideration too, even if you have the money to pay him as a head coach, some of these programs don't have the kind of money to hire the guys you would want to be your assistant coaches too. You got to take
Now,
that into
money.
consideration too.
If it's money, if it's the funds are not and just speaking, just put myself in like AD's position, um, is not where I want it to be, but if that type of man or that type of coach is willing to work with me after I explain where I'm at and what I can do for him, and he ready to rock and roll, then shit, we cooking with grease. But if not, then I will have. If this is my only choice, then I will have to go with a D2
Yeah.
coach.
Now, I mean, and like I said, we saw how it played out with Deion Sanders. We saw how it kind of played out with Eddie George. It's gonna be interesting to see how things go for Michael Vick and how
And
it
I
goes.
and I agree, D Weezy. If it won't lead to success on the field, that celebrity high is just a media ploy. Yeah, yeah. You got to keep that, um play that into effect as well. Like for example, Dion at Jackson State, even though he brought with the meat, he brought the media, but Jackson State was very successful after that year. They were slow. Those 2 years they were very successful, and now look
Well,
at Jackson State
technically,
now.
yeah, technically, like we said, the thing that kind of helped him, I think, kind of people don't realize to kind of fast track him. They played twice in that calendar year, from that spring to that fall, and the influx of quality talent that he had coming that summer, and of course Shador was kind of leading that class. Then the next class, Travis Hunter came in. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. I think he did a good job in the SWAC, but the irony is, I don't think he having the same kind of success at Colorado that I thought he would have, to be truthful. You know what I'm saying?
because he it, would- you know, with the SWAC, right? A lot of people wanted to. Oh man, that was big. Jackson, Deion Sanders going to a HBCU school, Jackson State, one of the blue bloods at that. Man, that's big, man. So
Yeah,
a lot of the kids that could have went to a Power Five or PWI school wanted to take part in that. Now he's in with the other Power Five schools or the PWI schools that are basically doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or been doing it for a while. So yeah, he got some competition. So it's not the same.
yeah. But like I said, you got to realize. I think
And
from
then don't get me started on the coaching decisions. But we
yeah. Oh no,
discussed
I'm
that
not gonna
on
lie. He done
us and
made some.
Big Joe discussed.
Yeah.
JB discussed that on the
Oh,
Southern
oh,
Baller
he
Show. But
definitely
go
done
ahead.
made some questionable decisions. We definitely gonna talk about it on the Southern Baller Show. But I'm saying, try basically comparing the hires. It's gonna be interesting to see if Deshaun Jackson and Mike Vick had the same type of impact. Uh, because some people still think Texas Southern should have hired Fred McNair, and it's even going to be interesting to see what Terrell Buckley could do at Mississippi Valley. So,
Oh,
it,
that's what I want. We gonna talk about Terrell Buckley. I think if Mississippi Valley doesn't, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it
yeah.
when we get to the SWAC. But yeah, that was the MEAC. Just finished going over the MEAC standings. North Carolina Central is in the lead, and then Delaware State is right behind them. But going into the SWAC, the Week 5 scores, there was like 6 games going on. So Bethune Cookman, in my opinion, upset Alabama A&M 41-34. Uh, Alabama State blew out Florida A&M 42-14. Texas Southern had to beat off the Delta Devils with a stick, but Texas Southern ended up beating them 23-20.
I don't know what Chris Dishman told them, but they came back and won. But Valley led most of that game.
They did. They did. They absolutely did. I want to take this part. I'm gonna take a pause in the scores and say this. Keep Terrell Buckley. I know y'all haven't won the game because obviously I see a big difference in how them boys play. They're they're more of a uh they're more competitive to me, coach. Am I tripping? I'm saying the same thing, even
No,
though they're not,
no.
so they're starting to Rome wasn't built in a day. It's gonna be rough because the Delta Devils, Mississippi Valley, have not been winning in a minute. I can't remember them competing in my lifetime, coach. I can't remember them competing for a SWAC championship.
Yeah, I remember when Jerry Rice was there.
Yeah, right.
That's been a long time.
So they got a coach, in my opinion, that can turn. And don't get me wrong, I like Kendrick Wade, but um, coach, he's he's your guy. Just work with him.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Some Texas Southern faithful might say the same thing, but Chris Ditchman. I mean, I think they both are scrappy programs, but it's going to be interesting to see where Chris Dishman has Texas Southern 3 to 4 years in, and where does Terrell Buckley have Mississippi Valley 3 to 4 years in. And not only that, we talk about the celebrity coaches. Honestly, I don't view. I'm talking about even though Chris Dishman was a Pro Bowler, I don't view Chris Dishman and Terrell Buckley in the same light that I view Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick. I view those guys more as, from an NFL standpoint, as superstar caliber players. Where I felt like Chris Dishman was a Pro Bowler and Terrell Buckley just a dog, just a good solid player.
He's
But
a
at the
very
end of the
solid
day,
player. Yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, there's levels to this. So it's gonna be interesting to see if who's the better coach other group or whatever, and does that extra status is a more high profile player, does that actually translate over onto the field? Or if you Terrell Buckley, hey, can you do a better job just coaching and getting it out the mud over Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson? So these are some interesting dynamics to take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with D Weezy. Um, Answering your question, Big Joe, he said, "Is Bill Belichick considered a celebrity hire?" Here, yes,
Hell yeah.
and
I mean, just think about it.
and right now it ain't looking too good because as far as the talent that he recruited, and maybe he got some plans for the future, but I don't see North Carolina, my Tar Heels, winning the game uh all
I
year.
mean,
We might go two and something.
just think about it. If we consider Hugh Jackson being a celebrity hire for Grambling, we got to consider Bill Belichick being a celebrity hire for North Carolina. And not only that, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I done seen it with Stump Mitchell. Of course, even though he was just a position coach, he wasn't a head coach in the NFL. He was a running back coach for the Cardinals and for the Redskins. Well, they're the Commanders now. But he was a position coach. He came down and he was just trash as a head coach of Southern. You know what I'm saying? And even with Hugh Jackson, I think Hugh Jackson was a great offensive coordinator in the NFL. But I'm not gonna lie, his play calling was highly questionable the 2 years he was at Grambling. So at the end of the day, I think just because a guy had success on the NFL level, that does not translate to success on a college level. It's two different games.
Yeah, yeah, man. And you don't get. We had this conversation a couple of shows ago, man.
Yeah,
More
yeah.
than
In fact, we had this same
Hugh,
conversation with
Hugh,
Big Joe.
they should have kept Hugh Jackson, in my opinion. When
Yeah,
it
well,
comes
I'm
to
not gonna
Grambling,
lie. I think they was looking at he from the city in terms of Mickey Joseph. He's from the city. And not only that, people don't realize, he went to Nebraska. He was an interim head coach in Nebraska. But you got to realize he was assistant coach all around the SWAC. He was assistant coach at Northwestern. But Mickey Joseph thing really is being an elite level recruiting coordinator. So, like, if you needed a guy to be on your staff and that was gonna go out and get, top notch talent, I'm not saying he trashed from X's and O's standpoint, but like his real claim to fame that a lot of people really know Mickey Joseph for is for being a real recruiter. And I'm not gonna lie, I really don't, based on what I'm seeing from Grambling, I don't see it on the field. But not only that, but of course, he got other ancillary issues at play, when you got, boosters and legends from the past like Dale Williams always sticking their nose in your business and not letting you do your thing. It's like, bro, like, too many cooks in the kitchen ruin the meal, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's part of what Mickey Joseph's problem is, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. D Weezy said Bill Bill came in with the message being we will win now. That hasn't been the case. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Um, but let's finish the scores for the SWAC. So Prairie View A&M beats Grambling 28-13, which I knew was
Ain't no
gonna happen.
shot. Ain't no shot.
And they struggling with Kentucky State. So and then Arkansas Pine Bluff upsets Alcorn, coach, 24-20.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. So the times I think he probably gonna get the axe because they thought once he took over for Fred McNair, they thought he was gonna go upward and onward, but not so much.
Man, shout out to Coach Jermaine Jackson over there at Prairie View A&M doing their thing. Big just said, let's go PVU. Yes, sir. I'm not going to lie. They looking strong in the West, coach.
Hey, no, we gonna get to that.
We going to get to that. And then the topic of the show, Jackson State in the Boombox Classic beat Southern 38-13.
Yeah.
Coach, I watched the game, but I want to hear from um your thoughts and your opinion. What the hell happened?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm gonna just kind of give you the short version. For those individuals that want the full, they want my immediate live, raw, quick post game reaction, go to my channel. If you want the full in-depth version of it, go to my channel. Both of them have over 1,000 views at this point. But in terms of the game itself, Southern is a terrible second half team. One of the subscribers in the chat pointed this out from the perspective of like back in the gap, like strength and conditioning was like a big thing in Southern. But with all of these players they got coming out of the portal, like players just show up in August and hey, we playing. Whereas like you really don't have the summer program that you had back in the gap from a strength conditioning standpoint. So Southern is a terrible second half team. Not only that, from a talent standpoint, Southern is not what it used to be in years past. I know a lot of people like, man, coach, you always talk about yesteryear and whoop the woo, but I'm not gonna lie, it's been from a talent standpoint, it's been a dramatic fall from grace for Southern. Southern don't just have the talent they used to have. And really for Southern to have any success now, because I'm not gonna lie, from a defensive standpoint, I talk about, them losing Jelani Davis at the other defensive end spot. Realistically, and of course, Willie Miles and Davin Cotton, the two defensive tackles gone. I think if you have those three guys opposite of Kelby Givens could be the same guy he was for last year. But at the end of the day, most of the time, he looked like three substitute defensive linemen in Kelby Givens. Really, I think the only bright spots in Southern defense is Kelby Givens, Vince Page Jr., and Mike Jones Jr. That's really like it. I mean, even like Horatio Johnson, he flashes here and there. I haven't been moved with him this season. Herman Brewster, the third, probably but the best in the secondary. But Trillin James, Eli West, like none of these guys are living up to the hype that, that Henry Miller talked about him, and Terrence Graves talked about him in the offseason or leading up to the season. None of these guys living up to the hype. So Southern defensively is bad. Southern, from a special team standpoint, is bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people was pointing out how, they didn't want to kick the ball to Travis Terrell Jr. That's cool. But at the same token, like Nathan Zimmer, one thing I would say, at least he made the 2 field goals. But the point of it is, dude, like they muff a punt and you pick it up, score. But of course, you can't advance a muff punt. You get the ball on the 3-yard line, you end up settling for a field goal. You get the ball on the plus side of the field again, you set up for another field goal. Instead of you being up 21, instead of you being up 21-10, you up 13-10, and you play a soft prevent, like soft cover 3, where you have literally 3 deep safeties and 3 down linemen rushing. And prior to that, like finally Kelby Givens in the pass rush finally come alive for like the first time this season. Not just him, but a couple of defensive linemen getting a little pressure. But the worst part of it was like Jackson State was on like the -5, so they was like backed up in their own end zone, like the 5-3 2-yard line, whatever it was, and it was 4th and 4, and for whatever reason they go pump block, and Southern guy tried to block it and ran into the punter. It wasn't roughing the punter, but the 5 yards gave him the first down. Then you got Zach Hussein, who a senior now, bro, senior defensive tackle, get his helmet knocked off, and instead of him just stop, he keep playing. You get a personal 5 penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct for playing hard without a helmet on. That keep the drive going. Now you go from a 4-man front that was getting pressure to a 3-man front with 3 deep safeties, and you wasn't playing man underneath, you playing zone. And Jacoby Morgan threw a long touchdown pass to end the first half, and they're going to have 17-3. It changed the entire complexion of the game. Southern got the ball to start the second half. They got on the plus side of the field. It was 4th and inches, and they couldn't convert. And for the most part, we talked about, is Ashton Strada that guy? He's not.
He's not. He missed. So he did, when y'all was in the red zone, there was a wide open slant, and he missed it. He
Yeah,
didn't
I
even
mean,
pull the trigger.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, he made a few plays, but
And
for the
Jay
most
Walker
part,
was pointing it out all game. Go ahead, man.
yeah, he made a few plays, but for the most part, he didn't make nearly enough. Jackson State pretty much loaded up to stop the run, and for the most part, they did. That's why in all those short yardage situations towards it, in the end of the game, you know, Jackson State was loading up to stop the run, and then Southern offense really wasn't moving the ball. Southern has been a bad second half team the entire season, and basically with Southern offense struggling and Southern having a bad defense. So, Jacoby Morgan had the game of his life. Like literally the best game he ever had. And then not only that, Southern was on the field for like 74, 75 plays. Southern gave up over 500 yards worth of offense. So in 2 weeks between Fresno State and Jackson State, in 2 weeks they gave up over 1,000 yards worth of offense. I'm like, damn, bro, like, come on, like,
It's crazy,
man,
man.
that's bad. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, the icing on the cake is the fact that, you know, if you take away like the long run from Trey Holly, like Southern and a few little passes Ashton Strada had, and I mean it's obvious after Saturday night that Jalen Woods is clearly a starting quarterback. Now the issue is, he's had a couple concussion issues. We don't want him to end up like J.C. Lewis. For people that don't know, J.C. Lewis was a Southern University quarterback back in the gap, like the mid 2000, like 2000 and I think maybe 5, 6, whatever it was, whatever the case may be. He was a starting quarterback. His two receivers were James Vernon and Gerard Landry. For those individuals that don't know, Gerard Landry is Jarvis Landry, who played for the Dolphins, the Browns, and the Saints. That's his older brother. Like he had two stud receivers, but his offensive line was just trash. He J.C. Lewis was from California. One of the guy that ended up replacing me is a middle school football coach at one of the schools I was at. He played with him at Southern. They used to call him Sunshine. He really was mobile, but he wanted to be a pocket passer. With a bad offensive line, he got a lot of concussions. So essentially, he ended up being like two, probably worse, because people I talked to that I didn't know him. I never
Damn.
interacted with him or whatever, but it was like, even as a young man, you could kind of clearly see the effects of all the concussions he had at Southern or whatever. So I don't want Jalen Woods to end up like being that guy, even though his concussions really came both off running plays. Mark Frederick is no longer your offensive coordinator, but the point of it is you get you know concussions in the 2 games you started in, like 2 of the last 3 games you played in. Like that's not a good thing. So hopefully he could stay healthy. But even with that being said, even with a healthy Jalen Woods and Fred McNair is now your offensive coordinator, your co-offensive coordinator, however you want to phrase it. Like Southern, from a roster construction standpoint, like they have entirely too many holes. They don't have the kind of depth they used to have. Realistically, even some of the starters they have are like, questionable. And then not only that, but the backups are even worse. Really outside of like maybe Trey Holland, your running back position, like, wide receivers have potential, but the quarterback position is shaky. Your defense overall is shaky. Special teams is shaky. Offense really can't move the ball like they should. So Southern has a lot from a roster perspective, they have a lot of issues. And, one of Jackson State fans pointed this out in the chat. They was like, how is it a winnable game? So you have to take everything into context. When I say winnable game, Southern had 13 penalties for 108 yards. Jackson State had 13 penalties for 111 yards. If Southern was going to win that game, Southern couldn't turn the ball over at all. And those 13 penalties only needed to be like 3 penalties for like 15 yards. But you had an offensive guard, right guard, who kept getting holding penalties. You got people like Zach Yusin getting an unsportsmanlike penalty for playing with his helmet off. You got to run into the kicker penalty that ended up resulting in a touchdown. A couple of those drives that Jackson State scored touchdowns on, Southern had penalties on those drives that kept those drives going and led to touchdowns. So when I say it was a winnable game, I'm not saying Southern was a better team than Jackson State. What I was saying is Southern had to play a clean, damn near perfect game. and Jackson State had to have an off night for Southern to win that game. It was a winnable game if you play a perfect game. But the problem is that's something Southern hasn't done all season long, and they didn't do it again on Saturday night. And truthfully speaking, the individuals that's optimistic and see the glass being half full, they're basically saying like, hey, the rest of the SWAC is bad once you get outside of Alabama State and Jackson State. They was like, the West is terrible. We can beat Bethune-Cookman when we can beat Prairie View for homecoming. We could win this game and this game and that game. People that are negative are basically saying the Southern's athletic department needs an entire factory reset. And you just need to burn the house down and rebuild everything from the bottom up. Start with athletic director Roman Banks, head coach Terrence Graves, entire football staff. Even though Southern is an athletic program, have won in smaller budget sports like men and women's basketball, soccer, golf, bowling. Like at Southern University, the revenue sport is football. The biggest football has the biggest budget. Southern is synonymous. They're synonymous for basketball to a certain degree, but most of football, like football, is what brings the fan base out. Like Southern is not a school like Kansas or North Carolina or whatever. Southern is a football school. So for you to be the athletic director and your football program is terrible under your administration is a poor reflection on Roman Banks. So it clearly looks like Roman Banks is a better head basketball coach than he is an athletic director. So, of course, some of his proponents are saying, hey, he's doing a good job raising money. Woo. Like, all right, cool, you raising money, but your athletic program is mediocre, in my opinion. But more than anything, your football program at this point is mediocre. The state of Southern University football is a dumpster fire, if you ask me. And truthfully speaking, a lot of these games, people saying they're going to win. I don't see them winning a lot of the games. And even if they do, just say the rest of the way you a 50-50 team at best. That's not going to cut in Jaguar Nation. And realistically, as a coach, I used to say this all the time. A lot of times, essentially winning cures all in terms of all the issues you have. But a lot of times when you lose it really exposes the deficiencies in your team. And Southern losing, realistically, if it wouldn't be for Trey Holly, I'm not gonna lie, Southern probably would have lost the Valley, and they probably would have got blown out worse than they got blown out in all the games they played in. Because really, if you look at the North Carolina Central game, you had a long run by Trey Holly, you had a long run by Cameron McCoy. For the most part, you didn't look impressive against Valley. Alabama State, you had too many turnovers and you just was terrible in the second half. Fresno State just blew the doors off, and Jackson State essentially just manhandled you. So at the end of the day, the state
running game and passing, yeah.
Yeah. So just think about it. Jacoby Morgan had his career game against Southern.
337 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Only missed 10 throws, yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's kind of back to the drawing board. They have a bye week, but you got to go to Daytona and play against Bethune. And, even though Bethune on paper really don't have a great record, they still got a couple players that they transferred to their school, from PWIs in terms of, FBS schools in the state of Florida. So at the end of the day, like, honestly, if I'm gonna just be honest, if I had to pick, I'm not picking right now, but if I had to pick, I'll pick Bethune to win in that game at home. You know what I'm saying? So, what would it take for Roman Banks to say, all right, hey, we're going to actually pull the trigger and get rid of Terrence Graves? Who knows? Some people saying the reason why they hired Graves to begin with was because, they still owed, Eric Dooley money. He was getting, his contract was $300,000 a year. He had a significant buyout. That was the reason why they didn't go out to coaches like, Trey Oliver and Chennis Berry. Of course, Chennis Berry was like kind of, the choice a lot of people wanted, but they really couldn't afford him. Not only afford him, but they couldn't afford the assistant coaches that he would want, to support him. So at the end of the day, from what I'm understanding, that some people telling me that more than likely Roman Banks won't fire Terrence Graves to the end of next season. But I'm like, no, he can't survive till next season because, I'm not gonna lie. Once you get past Prairie View for homecoming, you play Prairie View for homecoming. The last couple home games, I promise you, AWM Stadium, really outside of like the die-hard, hardcore season ticket holders like myself, it's gonna be a ghost town them last two games at AWM Stadium. So your fan base is gonna show you that they're not happy with the product on the field. So at the end of the day, something gonna have to give. And some people are saying, hey, like myself, you need to get rid of Roman Banks and Terrence Graves and the whole football staff, including Fred McNair, because at the end of the day, like you keep recycling all these SWAC coaches. I don't think that's gonna get you the job done. I think you need a factory reset. Whether you decide you want to get you a coach from the D2 ranks, or you want to get you one of these celebrity coaches, something needs to change. And essentially, from a talent standpoint, from a roster construction standpoint, from an X's and O's standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, from a game management standpoint, from a decision-making standpoint, from a clock management standpoint, like Southern coaching staff is just complete trash at this point. Southern University's football program is a dumpster fire as we speak. And if I had to pick it the rest of the way, truthfully speaking, I say maybe the only game you might win is Grambling, and I think that might be more of a dogfight than it should be.
Damn.
If you ask me.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you this though, my eyes are gonna be glued to the TV on October 11th because the top two teams in the SWAC, which is both on the east side, Alabama State and Jackson State will face off against each other.
That's gonna be that game gonna tell you. I hate to say it, I'm just gonna keep it a buck. That game gonna tell you who's gonna win the SWAC for one,
Yes,
and then in addition to
that
that,
is the SWAC championship.
that's
Hell,
the
let's go
SWAC
ahead and say it.
championship. It's de facto SWAC championship right there. And not only that, some people saying the best of the rest or the best in the West is PV. But I'm not gonna lie, somebody was telling me, yeah, Tremaine Gray's a good coach, but they don't think PV is good as people think they are. Because
Tremaine Jackson, yeah.
yeah, if they were as good as people think they are, some of them non-conference games, they'd have did better. So at the end of the day, it's gonna be interesting to see who wins the West. And for the most part, whoever come out the East gonna be a heavy favorite in the SWAC championship game. No two ways about that one.
Yeah, man. And I know it's early, but who's more favorable to beat North Carolina Central? Because I think North Carolina Central is gonna come out. North Carolina Central, or let's say hypothetically, maybe Delaware State.
I mean, if you
Who you
asking me
think?
who, if you asking me who I think gonna win the SWAC, I say Alabama State. If you're asking me who I think is a better matchup for North Carolina Central, I would say Jackson State.
I
So
agree.
time gonna tell how things are gonna play out. We still got some weeks to go. But at the end of the day, like
But
I
then
mean,
again, Alabama State passing game is dangerous. But go ahead.
but the thing about it though, I'm not gonna lie. I think if Alabama State had the kind of defense they had last year and the last few years with Andrew Body, a healthy Andrew Body, I say yeah, Alabama State, hands down. But truthfully speaking, their defense is not that in. I mean, it's not as good as it's been if you ask me. Then in addition to that, because realistically, Southern had success moving the ball in the first half, really against both Jackson State and Alabama State. But to me, I think Jackson State did a better job making adjustments in the second half, and Southern just from a strength conditioning standpoint, they're a terrible second half team. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what your coach used to tell you when you was in high school, but when I was in high school, our coach used to tell us uh, that basically fatigue make cowards of us all.
Yeah.
And you could see Southern is clearly not a second half team. If they're gonna have any success the rest of the way, like they really gotta have a huge lead going into the second half because especially on the defensive side, like they have no stamina, no conditioning. So but I think the thing that helped Alabama State was the fact that, Cameron McCoy had the turnovers he had in the second half against Alabama State, whereas I feel like Jackson State just made adjustments and they just tightened up the screws and they just locked Southern down the rest of the second half, the rest of the game. And not only that, but not having Jalen Woods dressed for that game, having him on the sideline in the suit. I ain't gonna lie, I kept saying it. I'm like, man, I'll pull Strada, but but he wasn't available to play because he wasn't dressed. So
Yeah. But let's go into the standings for the SWAC, man. So on the east side, we have, of course, Alabama State number one right now, 3-1. Jackson
well,
State,
they tied for first, but that's
yeah,
another
well,
story.
they tied, but they got Jackson State one on the top. But both. So let me make that correction. Thank you, Coach. Jackson State and Alabama State is tied, 3-1. Bethune Cookman is 2-3. Alabama A&M is 3-2. Florida A&M is 1-3. My yeah,
James Cozy, he another one. James
yeah.
Cozy,
It's
Cedric Thomas, Terrence Graves. I'm not gonna lie, you probably got about 5 SWAC coaches that's gonna get fired at the end of the season. 5 of them, bro. That's
yeah,
crazy.
because them Rattler fans that don't, yeah, they.
They're another blue blood too, just like people talking about Southern University fans have unrealistic expectations. Hey, fam, you expect James Cozy and 18 to be successful, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think them, Alcorn State, UAPB. I'm not gonna lie, UAPB probably better than Southern and Grambling and FAMU and Alcorn State at this point. UAPB might not be a bottom feeder that they've been like the last, whatever years, last few years or whatever.
Yeah. Um, but and Mississippi Valley is 0-4. But on the west side, we have Prairie View A&M 3-2. Like you said, Arkansas Pine Bluff is second, right behind them, 2-2. Texas Southern is 1-3. Grambling is 3-2. Southern is 1-4, and Alcorn State is 0-4.
And I don't have. If you're looking at Grambling record, you're like, oh, Grambling got a winning record. And Grambling got all them wins against Division II schools.
Facts. Yeah.
So that ain't nothing to sneeze at. But if Mickey Joseph don't win 10 games and the Bayou Classic, I'm sorry. If you don't win 7 games, including the Bayou Classic, he gonna get fired. But the thing about it is, for him,
That's true.
it might be a blessing in disguise because I promise you, they got a PWI Power 5 job waiting for him where he probably gonna make probably about $250,000 more than he making right now at Grambling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Mickey Joseph is a good recruiter.
Yeah, big
Um,
time.
but let's go ahead and go into the week 6 schedule and predictions and our predictions. So let's start with the CIAA and the SIAC. So for the CIAA, we got Shaw and Bluefield State on October 4th, this Saturday. I'm gonna go Shaw. Bluefield is a bottom feeder.
Yeah, I got short too.
Fayetteville State and Bowie.
Uh,
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
go
save
on.
it still.
I'm gonna go with Fayetteville.
Yeah, me too.
Livingstone versus Elizabeth City State.
Livingstone.
I got Livingstone as well. Virginia Union versus Winston-Salem State.
I'm gonna go with the Pete Richardson team with Salem State. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going with the Rams as well. Johnson C. Smith versus Virginia State. This is gonna be a good one, in my opinion.
Oh, this is gonna be a tough one. I'm gonna go Virginia State.
I got them Golden Bulls. Johnson C. Smith.
Yeah,
And for the SIAC, so you got Central State versus Fort Valley State.
I'm going with Central State.
How they got blown out, I'm a edge towards Central State as well.
Yeah.
Savannah State versus they ain't gonna win this. Savannah State versus South Carolina State.
Oh, South Carolina State gonna beat the brace off.
Yeah, for real. Allen versus Benedict. I got Benedict.
I got Benedict too.
Kentucky State versus Miles.
Kentucky State.
I got Kentucky State as well. Alabama. Albany State versus Lane.
Well, Albany State.
I got Albany as well. Tuskegee versus Morehouse.
Oh, this gonna be a good one. I'm gonna go Tuskegee.
I'm gonna go Morehouse.
All right.
I'm
I
going
like when
Morehouse.
we pick different teams. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Morehouse. Morehouse showed they had a pulse on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's knock out the MEAC. So, M- Morgan State versus Georgetown.
Georgetown, unfortunately.
I'm going Morgan State.
All right.
Georgetown, they're not known for their football, but Delaware State versus Monmouth. That's gonna be a tough one.
Uh, I'm
Monmouth.
going.
One thing you're gonna see about I can say they always gonna have a running back that can tote that
Yeah.
ball.
I'm unfortunately I'm gonna go with Monmouth on this one.
I would love Coach Jackson to get this win, but unfortunately,
Me
I'm going
too.
to Monmouth as well. I think they're going to be
Yeah. I think
overwhelmed
Monmouth. I
offensively,
think Monmouth's gonna win. Yeah.
especially in the running game.
Yeah. I hope Delaware State pull it off though.
Yeah, man, me as well. Savannah State. Well, we already picked South Carolina State, and then we got Hampton versus Norfolk State.
Ooh. I'm gonna go Norfolk.
I'm going Norfolk as well.
Yeah.
Now we're going to switch over to the SWAC. We got Bethune Cookman versus Alabama State. I got Alabama State.
Alabama State, big time.
Prairie View A&M versus Alcorn.
Prairie View,
Prairie View, yeah. Jackson State versus Alabama A&M.
Jackson State. I
Jackson
mean
State.
Cornelius Brown the Ford. He gonna need to have a game of his life. But I'm not gonna lie, Jackson State got a good defense.
Yeah, and then they got a lot of running backs.
Yeah.
They can just hand the ball off too. So yeah, they're gonna get overwhelmed in my opinion. Arkansas Pine Bluff versus Texas Southern.
This gonna be a good game. I'm going with Texas Southern.
I'm gonna go Pine Bluff.
Yeah. I think Texas Southern gonna pull it off.
I got Pine Bluff. I think Pine Bluff may pull it out. But man, awesome week of football last week, man. We got another one coming up. A weekend, I should say. Another weekend of football, man. So we definitely gonna be back here Thursday to recap week 6.
Yeah, I mean I'm looking forward to some good football. Southern has another bye week, so I don't have to just lock in and focus strictly on them. I could kind of move around the SWAC and just HBCU football and just college football in general. I'm looking at some of the big Power Five games too, and big FBS games too. So it's gonna be a good weekend of football. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're gonna be having our eyes locked on the screen so we can have a lot to talk about again next Thursday, man. But Coach, let everybody know where they can meet you and see you.
For all those individuals trying to collaborate with me, you can email me at coach67sportstv at gmail.com. You can catch me at Coach 67 Sports TV on all social media platforms. However, I'm primarily here on YouTube at Coach 67 Sports TV on my YouTube channel where I talk about all things Southern University football. My live stream from last night, the state of Southern University's football program, uh, season 1, episode 7 of the tailgate party. I talk about the state of Southern University football. And y'all just come over and rock out with me. You know what I'm saying?
Please
We
support the
appreciate.
brother.
Yeah, we appreciate all of y'all. Of course, a lot of HBCU fanatics. To come over from my channel. I just come from a lot of the Facebook groups that I'm in or whatever. We appreciate y'all to the fullest. We trying to grow my brother Jared 11 Green platform, and we trying to grow our brand in terms of HBCU fanatics. But we appreciate y'all to the fullest. And shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, you dig?
Yes, sir. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and great show, man. Y'all know what it is every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're gonna go live with the HBCU Fanatics, so please try to join us. Please share, hit my like button, be greatly appreciated.
Subscribe to the channel, please.
Please, 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 I really appreciate it. And then, of course, y'all be on the lookout for the Southern Baller Show, where we talk about more of the PWI, Power 5 schools
NFL
in the NFL and other sports like
on,
boxing.
on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You dig?
Coach beat me to it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I appreciate all y'all. Even if you catch the playback, appreciate y'all as well. Um, but this was another installment of the HBCU Fanatics. Y'all be blessed.
Peace and blessings to the family, you dig?